The 2023 F1 season is upon us. Almost. Testing has just started. So let's do our season's predictions, shall we? And we're not going to do it like Driver 20, 19, 18, 17. Nah, it's just too boring. I mean, if we really want it at the end, but nah. What we are going to do is categories instead. Think of it as the Filmfare Awards of predictions. Starting off with Rookie of the Year. Last year was pretty straightforward. Zhou Guanyu was the only rookie on the grid, so well done. But this year we've got three. Logan Sargent, Oscar Piastri and Nick De Vries. And for my Rookie of the Year, I'm going to go with Nick De Vries. Super impressive driver. You saw what he did when he subbed in for the Williams last year.
There you go, Boyo. P9. Wow. Thank you.
And I know what you're going to say. What about Oscar Piastri? Which is fair enough because Oscar is an equally impressive driver, if not more. And when it comes to young motorsport CVs, Oscar has the cleanest of them all. I mean, F3 and F2 champion back-to-back. Can't ask for more. But here's what I'm thinking. When it comes to deciding Rookie of the Year, performance versus teammate is going to be a crucial deciding factor. And I believe Nick De Vries versus Tsunoda is going to be a better performance compared to Oscar Piastri versus Lando Norris. And here's what I think. We're going to sit here at the end of the season and we're going to say, Yuki Tsunoda got 3 years in the AlphaTauri and Nick De Vries just came into the team and did so much better than him. What a rookie. Compared to, we're going to say Lando Norris, he was such a big benchmark and Oscar Piastri kind of did well, but he didn't really match up. I think that's the conversation that we're going to have, which is why I'm going to say Nick De Vries, Rookie of the Year. Next up, Manik Chand, Breakthrough Driver of the Year. Now this doesn't really have to be a rookie. It can be a driver who's been there for a year or so, kind of rubbish, kind of okay, kind of meh, suddenly explodes into a beast of a driver. Now I've got a few in mind here. The first one I'm going to say Zhou Guanyu. Suddenly explodes, had an okay season last year, had a good season last year, suddenly explodes into being the Alfa Romeo primary driver, even beating Valtteri Bottas. Another option I have is Carlos Sainz. Was kind of shaky, kind of bad compared to Leclerc at the start of the year, kind of did really improve towards the second half. I'm going to say still doesn't really beat Charles Leclerc, but he will be very close to Charles this season. But then again, is that really a breakthrough performance for a Ferrari driver? Not really. I have a third option, okay? Wild prediction. I'm going to say Esteban Ocon absolutely demolishes his new teammate and rival, Pierre Gasly. Could happen. But what do you think? Maybe not the Carlos Sainz one. I'm going to say Breakthrough Driver of the Year, Zhou Guanyu at Alfa Romeo. Next up, the category is this driver gets promoted in 2024. A driver who does so well this year that a big team calls him up for next year. Again, I'm damn tempted to say Nick De Vries does so well in the AlphaTauri that Red Bull call him up for next year. Oh God, can you tell that I'm a Nick De Vries fan? Am I hiding it well? It's either this or I'm going to say Alex Albon at Williams does so well that a big team or a medium, like mid-level team says, nah dude, you're just wasted at Williams, like come help us. A similar scenario to when George Russell was so good at the Williams and Mercedes were like, nah, it's time for you, please come. Maybe it's not going to be a top 3 team for Alex Albon, but like a mid-level team, a midfield team is going to be like, you can help us rebuild. Maybe like an Aston Martin if something happens with Fernando Alonso, or let's say an Audi Sauber, which is an upcoming good option. Okay, so next category, this driver gets demoted in 2024. Now this hurts me, okay? This hurts me to say, and I really don't want it to happen, but I think it will. I think this will be Sergio Perez's last year as a Red Bull driver. Now hear me out. My reasoning is last year's Red Bull was so overpowered that Checo's little mistakes, little like inconsistencies, maybe the difference to Max Verstappen wasn't really visible, went unnoticed. But this year, assuming that I'm saying the top 3 teams will be damn close to each other, let's say Max Verstappen qualifies on pole position. And Checo Perez does a similar time to what he was doing last year. Let's say 0.3 of a second off Verstappen. But again, remember the teams are now damn close, assuming. So, within those 0.3 seconds, imagine all 4 other drivers, the top 2 teams, 2 Mercedes and 2 Ferrari drivers, sneak in between Max and Checo. And suddenly Checo qualifies P6. Keeps continuing to qualify P6, and that's going to be visible. That's going to be noticed by Red Bull. Oh God, damn, this guy, P6. And again, assuming someone like a Nick De Vries starts killing it at AlphaTauri, and Red Bull have the history of saying, junior driver, come up to the main Red Bull team. Checo, please. But also remember, I said demoted. I didn't say Checo Perez loses race seat in F1 forever. Let's assume Red Bull say, Checo, please go down to AlphaTauri. And Checo is like, nah, dude. At my age, at my stage of my career, no chance. I'm not going to your sister team and being the B team guy. Okay, so potentially, I'm going to say if this happens, if Checo does lose a seat at Red Bull, it could be a Bottas kind of situation for Sergio Perez, where he's like, I'm going to go to a lower team as a big driver, goes to a lower team and helps them rebuild, maybe like a Williams. Okay, so the next category, wild driver transfer cycle. I'm sorry to keep sticking to Red Bull, okay, but hear me out. Max Verstappen at Red Bull, killing it. Red Bull start losing patience with Checo Perez. Meanwhile, Nick De Vries at AlphaTauri killing it. Red Bull start losing patience with Yuki Tsunoda. Meanwhile, Red Bull also want to try Daniel Ricciardo somewhere, but not really in the main Red Bull team just yet. So they're going to say Yuki out, Daniel Ricciardo in as the primary AlphaTauri driver. Nick De Vries gets promoted as the second Red Bull driver. So 2024 could be Red Bull, Verstappen and De Vries, and at AlphaTauri, Daniel Ricciardo, and the second driver, Liam Lawson. Or if there's a Honda connection there, Ayumu Iwasa. Okay, so finally, the top two big predictions. Who is going to be the Drivers' World Champion for 2023? I hope it's damn close. I really do. I really don't care who wins the World Championship as long as they win it by 1 point at the last race. That's all I care about. I want to make a wild prediction, but I also want to be sensible. I'm going to say Max Verstappen goes 3x. It is just the way that dude is driving. It's just, I can't think of anyone else. Let's say even if the top three teams are damn close to each other, and let's say Red Bull aren't even at the top end of that closeness, I still think there is, in these recent times, there is that Verstappen factor, which is just going to tip him over. And I also think that the Ferrari and Mercedes teammates are going to be so close to each other, which will not be the case with Verstappen and Sergio Perez. Which means Leclerc and Sainz and Hamilton and Russell will keep taking each other's points, which will not happen with Verstappen, who will not be threatened by Checo. I think it's good that I'm talking in all these cumulative arithmetic of points. I hope the grid will be that close together. Having said that, I will cry vehement tears if Verstappen or anyone else wraps up the championship with like 4 or 5 races to go. Please no. And finally, the Constructors World Championship 2023. I predicted Max Verstappen to be Drivers' World Champion, but I'm going to say Constructors, it's going to be Scuderia Ferrari. Again, this is working off the assumption that the top 3 teams will be close to each other, and I've already predicted Sainz to be a lot closer to Leclerc this year. Which means even if Max Verstappen keeps winning, but Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz are continuously P2 and P3, that accumulates more points. It's more points for Verstappen, Drivers' World Champion, but it's more points for Ferrari, Constructors World Champions. Again, these are all predictions. I'm hoping it will be this close. I keep saying I hope it's this close. All I want this season, dude, all I want, I don't care Verstappen or Leclerc or Sainz or Hamilton, I don't care. Right? What I want is at any point, any Saturday or Sunday, top 6 cars at least, the top 3 teams, I'm hoping that at any point, any one of those top 6 could put it on pole position, and on Sunday, any of those top 6 is within a chance to win the race. Please, just be that close and I'm happy. So those were my predictions for the 2023 F1 season. Let us just end with this list, but only of the top 3 teams, shall we? I'm going to say the drivers list: Verstappen, World Champion; Charles Leclerc; Lewis Hamilton; Carlos Sainz; George Russell; and Checo Perez. And with the constructors, I'm going to say Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes. But be closer. This also, please be close. Please do let me know your predictions for the 2023 F1 season in the comments below, maybe in the categories that I've mentioned. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.